Speaking of people's personal addiction problems being weaponized against them, Pete Hegseth is getting absolutely torched in the press for his alleged drinking problems. He's talked about some of this personally after he returned from war, but NBC News published a story just yesterday detailing allegations, all anonymously sourced, by the way, from people inside Fox News, essentially saying that he would show up to work hungover and that everybody knew he was a heavy drinker. Now, since the publication of that story, it has become clear that NBC News did not reach out to Pete Hegseth's coworkers like Rachel Campo-Steffi, an anchor actually on Fox News. All kinds of people have come out on the record and said they've never heard anything like it. They're obviously all friends and allies of Pete Hegseth. But after the publication of that story, which comes after allegations of sexual abuse, it comes after allegations of drinking and wild, sort of incompetent runs overseeing Concerned Vets for America. Pete Hegseth now is being potentially replaced by Ron DeSantis. We can put this element on the screen. A Wall Street Journal report last night exclusively broke the news that Donald Trump was mulling a replacement of Pete Hegseth with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. What I saw last night, Ryan, is people who seem to be in the DeSantis camp saying this story is true. They have people that are telling them the story is true. It was confirmed by other news outlets in different ways after the Wall Street Journal published it, and that is significant. My former boss, Sean Davis, who's very well sourced from the Federalist in Trump world, says the story is not true, that it's being planted by DeSantis allies. So maybe there's a kernel of truth that they're using to plant stories in places like the Wall Street Journal, making it more likely that DeSantis ends up just stepping in for Pete Hegseth. Hegseth's mom is going to be on Fox News this morning, so literally as we're taping this, and then he is actually going to be on Bret Baier's show this evening. He's meeting with senators here in Washington all week. So Ryan, this is a very precarious nomination at this point to head up an agency that is deeply suspicious of outsiders, that doesn't want outsiders, whatever you think of Pete Hegseth. There's definitely a campaign to get him out the door.
Yeah, and what's annoying to me as somebody who would love to see a wrecking ball brought to both the Department of Justice and to the Department of Defense is I would like you guys on the right to kind of get your act together. Come on, you have a chance to take on these titans of elite power centers, and the two people you throw at them do seem to be real wrecking balls. Mm-hmm. I got differences with them in some areas, but these both Matt Gaetz and Hegseth would be real wrecking balls thrown into these institutions.
Kash Patel, yeah.
And if you're going to take on the man at that level, you got to be squeaky clean.
Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't squeaky clean probably today.
Well, Brett Kavanaugh was squeaky clean.
Brett Kavanaugh's squeaky clean. Also, he's not a wrecking ball. He's not taking on anything.
Yeah.
He's just a servant of the Republican Party apparatus for 20, 30 years.
I agree, but I think your point is actually really important, which is that...
And also he got through.
I think it's really important because these Trump nominees, if you want to upend the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Pentagon, nominating Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz right away, you know that there's such easy targets, and you know that, let's say, hypothetically, even though I think this is probably true, there are people inside the Pentagon and their allies in the press who are really eager to discredit any nominee that is going to dramatically shake up the department. They will go to any length to stop you from being confirmed. So not only should you be squeaky clean, you shouldn't be Matt Gaetz. It's so obvious. Or somebody who is, in Pete Hegseth's case, he's admitted to drinking too much. He's admitted, we know that he has slept around with all kinds of different women. So it's a...
And the thing with the mother's amazing. And that's what, she, in her email that was published, which is wild, that a mother's email to her son is now part of the conversation. Yep. She refers to him as a serial abuser of women. Mm-hmm. People read kind of violence into that. She doesn't say that in the email. What she's really talking about is emotional abuse and relentless cheating and denigration and just treating women terribly. And even if it's the case that the charge of sexual assault, rape that he was accused of, isn't true. Like he wasn't charged. It's gray. It's a he said, she said. Let's say that he didn't do it. At minimum, he was having an affair within like weeks of his new girlfriend having a baby.
Right.
And that baby was breaking up his last marriage.
Right.
Like just Hillary Clinton's description of deplorable would fit that situation.
Yes, although she probably wouldn't use it that way because it would be uncomfortable for her own
Certainly
husband.
Would. Yes, right. And once you're in the category of being compared to Bill Clinton,
Not good.
then you're like, you've kind of lost. And again, we're not saying everybody's got to be a choir boy, but you got to do a little better than this, guys.
Well, and
if you're gonna try to take on, like if you are going to toe the line and just do what you're being asked by the powers that be, then you can actually probably get away with all of this stuff.
The problem is
you're going to take on the man.
Right.
You gotta be a little bit more stitched up.
Well, I think you and I both know the problem is that if you are somebody who actually wants to radically transform a department like the Pentagon, you're probably going to be a little crazy, right? Like that takes a crazy person to say, I want to go into the Pentagon and upend it and fire people and threaten contracts, multi-billion-dollar contracts. Like it's very difficult. Ron DeSantis, and this is why I think the story is particularly interesting, it's a similar dilemma that Trump had with Attorney General. Pam Bondi is a lobbyist for major corporations. Qatar. She is not Matt Gaetz. The benefit from Trump's perspective, and even from the perspective of those of us who say, like, enjoy the Schadenfreude because we believe that these departments desperately need some type of like metaphorical grenade to be tossed in. That is, you only get that with Matt Gaetz. You don't get that with Pam Bondi. You only get that with Pete Hegseth to the extent that he would be capable of it. I don't know if any individual is actually really capable of it. You don't get that with Ron DeSantis. Right.
But a revolutionary does not have to be reckless. Now, you're right.
This is interesting.
You're right that the personality type that produces a revolutionary is often somebody who has reckless tendencies. But your buddy Steve Bannon is always talking about Lenin. Lenin and the Vanguard. And
he does love that.
He loves talking about Lenin. Go read some Lenin and talk about revolutionary discipline. Like, these cadres need more revolutionary discipline. Go read some Mao. Like, you think that any of those revolutionaries would be tolerating this level of indiscipline when they actually believe that their revolution is so important that it is going to save humanity? Like, if you believe it, then you can zip it up at a conference when your wife is like just had a baby 6 weeks ago. Come on.
So I take it you're in the Lenin.
Come on, revolutionaries.
Lenin didn't have syphilis camp. That's
no. Come on.
But no, I mean I think that's all completely true. It's just, and like if you look at, for example, Bernie Sanders, somebody who on the right, like let's say what is the revolutionary comparison to Bernie Sanders on the right? I mean, on the right, people who have gone full MAGA and are true, like, quote unquote, revolutionaries in the sense that they want to throw the metaphorical grenade into all of these departments.
Look at Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz is more of a Ron DeSantis, though.
Right. Well, no, Donald Trump, not exactly the most disciplined revolutionary.
But never drinks or touches drugs to that point.
He does the raping and the pillaging, but yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to. It's not an easy thing because you tend to be pretty eccentric if you are from that camp. But
still,
it is,
no excuse.
I do want to.
Mao would not tolerate any of this.
Mao would not tolerate any of this, and as somebody who's looking at the FBI and saying, "What the like? This is disgusting." You can't. It's incredibly frustrating to see like somebody like Matt Gaetz put in the nomination position to oversee the DOJ.
And the validation for my theory, it looks to be Kash Patel. Like he seems like personally, as far as we know, buttoned up. Like we're not hearing from his mother about
not yet.
about his indiscretions, and he's just as much a revolutionary as the rest of them, and he's probably going to get confirmed.
Yeah, we'll see. And that is, by
Maybe
the way,
we'll see.
With Hegseth, there is a question of whether, to be fair, if you're overseeing the Pentagon, I understand why. Obviously, drinking, if he is an alcoholic, which I don't think there's evidence that he's an alcoholic right now, but if you are sleeping around, drinking a lot, there's potential for being compromised. There's potential for being, in a...
He's seen a lot of combat, right? I'm sure he's got a lot of trauma that he's got to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's potential
that he's self-medicating with this exploitation of women and drinking and whatever. Yeah.
If there's a national security emergency and the head of the Defense Department is drunk, that's a problem. But it also creates opportunities again for foreign compromise and all of that. So I get why some senators are, Joni Ernst, for example, have been given
But they're
pause.
probably just seizing it because they really don't want him in there.
But it's an excuse.
He'd be a hand grenade thrown into the Pentagon.
Yeah, I think it becomes an excuse for all of the lobbyists tripping in your ear about how bad this is and how dangerous it is.
If too much drinking disqualified you from a position of power in Washington, we'd be an anarchist system. There'd be nobody in power.
Yes, the people who leaked to NBC News anonymously saying that they suspected he was hungover at Fox and Friends, it was like, how is NBC News publishing this? Yeah. Great scoop. Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.